Hi, this is Mayor Dwayne Warren with another coronavirus update. This is a special case. We're at the police department, and one of the things I want to highlight is the recent killing of George Floyd in Minneapolis, Minnesota, at the hands of police in a tragic incident that I'm sure we've all seen all over the internet, but it points up a larger issue nationally about the value of Black lives, where we stand, and how this kind of brutality has to stop. I want to echo the words of Mr. Floyd's brother yesterday at a prayer vigil when he said that people should stop looting, they should stop any behavior that's inconsistent with order, and that they should vote. That is our strongest way to protest, is to put people in power who are responsible and are responsive to the needs and concerns of the entire community. Today I have our police director and the chief commander in the police department, and I want to just talk to them about some of the issues that were raised during this tragic incident in Minneapolis. I also want to give you the numbers on where we are with coronavirus. In terms of the virus, we have 999 cases at this point. We're under 70 deaths, under 75 deaths. If you look at our numbers, you see it coming down slowly but surely. There has been an executive order to open up certain sectors of the economy, especially on Main Street. I'm going to go over that with you in more detail in our next segment when we're speaking to the city attorney, and he'll discuss all of the governor's executive orders and how they impact our city. But for now, I really want to get deep into the Minneapolis incident and some of the strategies and things that we're doing here locally to make sure that kind of incident does not occur. Director Warren, thank you for coming. I really want to get right to it. When this incident occurred, law enforcement across the country came together responsible law enforcement all over the country came together to denounce the tragic incident. Certainly, myself as mayor, I denounce it fully. I think everyone involved ought to be arrested and fully prosecuted. I think that the federal government, as President Trump is being creative in using the Insurrection Act, an act from 1807 to quell any riots, I think he should be as creative in finding laws that will help to prosecute everyone that was involved in this case. Recently, the Essex County Directors of Police had a press conference in Newark where the Attorney General was represented, where the Sheriff was represented, the Essex County Sheriff was represented, yourself and other directors across the county. Give us a feel on what that meeting was like and what message you came away with, and what message as a speaker at that event did you give?
The event was historical. There was such a sense of cohesion between all law enforcement agencies within Essex County, all the chiefs, directors, actually the fire department was there as well. There was a sense of cohesion and a sense of commitment for us coming together as law enforcement personnel, law enforcement executives, to develop initiatives to address issues that plague communities of color. I think this event really opened everyone's eyes because it's undeniable. Racism is alive and well, we all know that. And it also allowed us to come together, not just as law enforcement, but to have open and honest dialogue, Caucasian officers along with African American officers. I've had conversations with my guys here, and everyone is disgusted, despite race and ethnicity. Every law enforcement personnel in my department that I spoke with is disgusted. It was unnecessary. It was uncalled for. It was inhumane. It was cowardly. The tactics used by the officer were not taught in the police academy. They were not sanctioned by the Attorney General of the state of New Jersey, at least. And we have had open and honest dialogue, which is the key. And we have made commitments to put our heads together to come up with different initiatives and be honest with ourselves and with the community. Because one reality is, as law enforcement, we say, if you see something, say something. but communities of color ask the same of us. But what's happening is law enforcement protects its transgressors, but yet you want the community to tell on who's committing crimes within the community.
Now, today we had a call with the governor and the head of the state police, Superintendent Callahan, and they announced 5 initiatives that they're going to implement at the state level to try to avoid this incident from happening once again. Director, just want to go over these 5 things with you. He talked about expanding crisis intervention, having statewide police licensing, and having a use of force portal where people will report use of force and they would get access to it in real time, and to revise the state's use of force policy, and having incident response teams. Now, of those 5 measures, all of them require police to do more and to be more sensitive to the community. But I do want to ask and direct you to contact state police to make sure that when they do the revision of the use of force policy, that they get input from directors across the state, especially ours, where we're small, but we have a access corridor for transportation through 280. We have 2 train stations. We have Central Avenue and Main Street, which lead to larger municipalities. And so we're sort of a gateway to other places, and people tend to come here, even though it's small, to commit transgressions. And I'd like our voice heard in terms of how we do the revision of the use of force policy throughout the state. I also want to ask you of the issues that have been brought up, and I've worked with you and the law department together on trying to put together a number of initiatives, but you have something similar to the crisis intervention that they're seeking to expand, with the training teams, where how they intervene with the public, especially those who may have mental disabilities and so forth.
But we have our police chaplains. We have built a strong relationship with our local clergy, some of which are our police chaplains who have successfully completed the chaplains training, in addition to other ministerial trainings that they have done as a requirement to fulfill their duties as ministers and pastors. We have a great relationship with them. We deploy our police chaplains, certain situations, homicides, fires, all types of poisoning situations. We deploy our chaplains, so they're trained, and we do all types of things to build relationships with the community. You know, be it through the Police Athletic League, through the Police Community Collaborative. You know, where community-based organization that includes the public in our activities in terms of reviewing data, being updated on some of our operations and things of that nature.
And you've been more aggressive, I see, when you're working with the local newspaper about reporting out incidents and about giving more explanation to crime statistics as they come in.
Yes, we have weekly reports, and we like to forward those weekly reports to the press so that everyone knows exactly what's going on in the city of Orange Township. And we feel like the citizens or residents should know. You live here, you pay taxes here, you should know the operations that are going on or what your police department is actually doing.
So I know we have Vincent here, who is the chief command person in the department. Vinny, just give us a sense of, you've been in Orange for nearly 30 years.
Correct, 31.
31 years in this role, in the police role. You're an Italian American, and you've seen Orange evolve from mostly other than minority to now mostly minority. You've seen a number of different nationalities come to Orange and set up sections throughout the city. And you've seen the growth in diversity in this town. Tell me how you've developed as an officer, what kind of training has been available to you, and what kind of examples have you used to make sure that you're on the right side of being able to police with the new insurgence of diversity that has come from the beginning of your career until now?
Well, I have to start by saying Orange is a great town, and diversity, everyone pretty much gets along. And under your leadership, you and the directors, it's only gotten better. We have diversity training for a better understanding of other cultures with our officers. Our community service bureau is out there all the time. And pretty much, we have such a good rapport with our community, with all the different drives, Mayor, that you and the director do, the toy drive, the birthday parades, just getting out there in the public and talking to individuals. So I would say that it evolved greatly from enforcing the law to being more of a community-oriented policing type of city, which we're at now. And I've seen it change. I've been in Orange, like I said, 31 years. And when I first got here, it was pretty wild. And the city, with the diversity, I think has gotten better.
Now you've assigned officers to everything from cultural festivities in the parks to flag raisings to other activities that reflect culture and that reflect different kinds of community. How are you training your young officers now to deal with that kind of diversity?
Well, as I stated before, we do train them in the diversities and the different cultures. They have in-service training, police academy training when it comes up, and training throughout the state whenever it's available. The director likes to send his officers for that type of training. And what's great about the city is there is an event for, I would say, every type of culture within the city. And you know what? That just started happening recently in the last 8 years with your direction. And you know what? By having these events, it meshes the community with the police. It makes the police more, how would you say, it makes them more exposed to the people, and the people exposed to us, where they understand that we're people just like them. Just because we wear blue, we're no different.
Right.
We all bleed red. So, and they see us as human instead of being just a badge and a uniform.
One thing, Mayor, you talked about training. One of the first things that we did when I took over as director was establish a training bureau, because we understand the importance of training. And with that training, we have the Fairleigh Dickinson Educational Initiative. We have different types of trainings. We train the trainer where our training bureau can come in and train some of our officers. So the young officers can come in and get training through the training bureau. Each certificate, they can get credit through the FDU program, college credits. And we also maintain a training file for each officer, so we know what each person is trained in.
Outstanding. Now, there are some times when police engage in misconduct. And Vinny, I know you're in charge of making sure that police are on point in doing all that they do. I have here in front of me a use of force incident form. A citizen, if they experience police brutality or some misconduct by police, tell me what the process is.
Well, first, if a citizen does experience that, they could report to our internal affairs division. They can report any type of misdoings, use of force, etc. They'll report it to internal affairs. However,
and they do that by calling the police number 266-4111 and the extension 5025.
Correct.
Okay.
Right on. So that's how they would go about reporting. They would have them come in, fill out a IAD report form. Then our internal affairs will investigate. However, if a police officer engages in force, whether it be physical or mechanical, he must complete a form, a use of force.
This is a use of force form that the
Yes.
police fill out whenever they're engaged in any kind of force, whether it be misconduct or whether they be trying to coerce someone to do something. They have to fill out this form.
Correct.
And when they complete this form, who does it go to?
Well, first it gets reviewed by a supervisor. The supervisor reviews it. Once it's approved, it gets sent to internal affairs. Now, once it goes to internal affairs has a record of each officer in here. They have a file,
right,
and that'll go into their file. and it gets reviewed. Each officer's IAD file gets reviewed on a monthly basis, along with the use of force reports.
And then after this form gets completed, does it get forwarded to any other agency?
The prosecutor's office will get a copy.
So the Essex County Prosecutor's Office, who is the top law enforcement agency in our county, will get a copy of this as well.
Correct. The top law enforcement agency will get a copy. They also review.
And Director, do you get an opportunity to review this before it goes or as soon as it comes in?
Yes.
So I'm going to jump back and forth between this incident in Minneapolis and our local practices because in doing the background on that incident, it appeared that the officer, one of the officers involved, had a lengthy record of use of force, maybe close to 18 incidents, as a matter of fact, in his career. How does that happen? How is he not on the street? How is that happening if they have opportunity to, if they have to complete this form and then the leadership has an opportunity to review it? How is he still out?
It's negligent on behalf of the law enforcement executive and the hierarchy within the department. Bottom line, he's been on the job for 20 years with 18 disciplinary write-ups.
Almost one a year.
Right, and two police-involved shootings. Now, I'm surprised that the local prosecutor's office didn't get wind of that and intervene. Each law enforcement executive knows who works for him. We expect the community to identify their bad apples, which they should. But we can identify our bad apples as well. And this guy should not have made it past year number 3 or 4 if he worked for me.
So to the public, this is just, we need to understand what the process is, that once this use of force form is in the person's file, it's looked at by internal affairs, it's looked at by supervisory staff, it's looked at by the chief law enforcement executive in the town, and then it goes to the county prosecutor to be reviewed as well. So there are a number of different checkpoints where this person should have been flagged, should not have even been on the street at all. Tell me what role, Director, you think race had to play in this scenario?
I think it was racially motivated. I think it was an act of evil. When I watched the video, I was disgusted. I was trying to figure out, where is this man's humanity? Although we're a paramilitary organization, we still must understand and stay in touch with our compassion. We must know when to extend the hand of grace, mercy, compassion, and even when to get aggressive. Because there's a time and place for whatever. It depends on the situation. But if you have a man handcuffed behind his back, on his stomach, and one knee's on his neck, and 2 other officers are holding him down, I don't understand that. The objective is to clear the scene as quickly as possible. If he was handcuffed, pick him up, put him in the car, and leave.
To get out of the neighborhood.
To leave the neighborhood.
Out of the incident.
Exactly, leave the
altogether.
neighborhood. But the individual kept his knee on the man's neck for approximately 7 to 10 minutes. That makes no sense.
Was warned that he couldn't breathe.
It was
Knew
warned
that the
he
practice
breathe.
wasn't sanctioned.
The man cried out for his dead mother. Where's the humanity?
Disgusting.
Then as a result of this incident, a number of towns around the country, around the globe, quite frankly, but here locally, a number of towns have experienced a surge of protesters come to the community. I understand they've asked our department to come in and assist. Tell me how that process works.
What happens is the chiefs and directors, they'll put out an email for assistance throughout the county. And through the mutual aid agreements, we will help out each and every other city in the county, maybe even further, if they need our assistance. So far, we've been to Newark, we've been to Glen Ridge, we're going to...
You're going to West Caldwell?
West Caldwell tonight. And you know what? Like the director said, all law enforcement despises what happened to Mr. Floyd and his family. And, our deepest sympathies go out to them, because it's just a tragic incident that happened. And law enforcement has come together, and we're going out with the protesters, but we want to make sure they're safe as well.
Right.
We're there for their safety as well,
right.
And make sure they have a right to peacefully protest.
Right.
That's the right of every American citizen, and that's what we're there for.
And you've also deployed officers at the Rock, which is the command
Correct.
center in Newark.
It's the Regional Operation Intelligence Center, and we do have an officer assigned there. And what they do is on a daily basis, they put out any credible threats. They assess those threats, and they pass it out to each and every department. Now, what that does is that helps to protect the community along with the police for any type of threats to the community.
So you get information firsthand as it comes
Correct. And we also have an intelligence unit that does monitor social media on a daily basis, and they're looking for any type of credible threats to the city of Orange or police personnel.
So it's real advice when we tell our young people to watch what you put on social media because it's being monitored.
Correct. It's being monitored each and every day.
Tell me about the incidents. I know we're on the border of South Orange. I know you monitor closely what's happening in our neighboring towns. They had a protest incident there. Any reaction to that? Were we called into that, or how did they handle it?
No, it was actually very peaceful in South Orange. Their police department handled it well. It went right along without a hitch. And they're,
I just want to wrap up with just some information on your thoughts, the both of you, your thoughts on the President of the United States. He gave a speech last night, which was June 1st, and he indicated that he would aggressively use the Federal Insurrection Act, which would allow the federal government to bring in the military into towns, into states where there was unrest, where there were civil rights violations. There's a section of the statute that requires that the legislature and or the governor to approve them coming in. But there's another section where it essentially gives him the discretion as to when to bring the military in on American citizens. Director, what are your thoughts on that process?
Here in the city of Orange, we don't need the military. We can control our city. We can work with our people because we have a great rapport with our residents, and we have an open and honest dialogue, so there's no need for force here in the city of Orange Township. I believe that the president is acting somewhat irresponsibly. But let me just say this. I am not in favor of looting. I'm not in favor of any type of criminal activity. I think it has nothing to do with the cause at hand. I think it's an excuse for some people to just act in a lawless nature. And I'm urging folks to stick to the protest, don't deviate from the protest. Stop the looting because the military will come in and it's not going to be pretty. It's not going to end well.
Then there was protests in Washington, D.C. yesterday, right before the president's speech. And before he came out, he had National Guardsmen and other police officials to move the protesters back by force. They were peaceful protesters. They were there, a group of young people actually. Had their vests on, used smoke bombs and so forth, and forced to move them back. Do you see that situation being necessary in any of the places that you covered with the protesters?
no, were we covered? Not at all. Matter of fact, I'm so proud of our citizens and the way they reacted. By the way, you saw on Saturday when we did our birthday drive.
Correct.
I felt so overwhelmed because all the citizens, everyone we passed was waving to us. They were happy to see the Orange Police. And even in Newark, when we deployed our patrolmen to Newark, by the way, it's my hometown, Newark made me so proud because what happened was the Newark residents were forcing out the antagonistic outsiders that were coming in to rile up the crowd. So in our area, everything's been pretty much peaceful.
That's good. That's how we want it to stay. Peaceful protest is the best way. There is no place for violence in a situation like this. It will not fare well for the name of George Floyd, who departed from us under these unfortunate circumstances, the best way to keep his name alive and to keep the spirit of unity and progress alive is to stand up, to protest peacefully, but most of all, to go and vote to make sure that those are in power reflect our values and reflect our approach to life and to safe living in our community. Certainly, we'll continue to do that in the city of Orange Township. I want to thank our police department for being there. If you have a question, you can always call them at 973-266-4111. Their number is on the screen. If you want to contact the Internal Affairs Department, please contact them at 973-266-4111, extension 5025. We aim to be effective. It's often said about our police, directly from our police director, that we have an aggressive department, that we aggressively root out crime, that we aggressively turn the bad guys over to the prosecutor's office for prosecution. We won't tolerate those who want to violate the law. However, we are a community police department. We engage in everything that our community engages in, from helping our children to being part of the feeding circle to certainly the coronavirus time that they put in to make sure our community is safe. We're a police department that does it all, and we want to continue to do that, but we need your support to make it happen. We're not perfect, and we're not above criticism, and we want criticism because that's what makes us grow. But we want to do it in a way that's respectable and efficient to make sure that our town is certainly safe. We're signing out here from the Police Department, 29 Park Street, the city of Orange Township. Please be safe. Continue to practice social distancing. Please wear your masks and your gloves where necessary. Please stay tuned as we outline for you the efforts that the governor is implementing in order to reopen our economy so that we can do it in a manner that is safe and secure for all of us. Thank you. And remember that if we continue to work together, we can beat the coronavirus.